Okay, we mentioned the commission. The Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel Commission is appointed by the appointees who are appointed to serve on the commission by the governor of the Commonwealth. So they are your host committee today. Please hold your applause until I've introduced all of our commissioners who are present today in alphabetical order. Commissioner Deborah Christie, stand please. Commissioner Thomas Dix Jr., Commissioner Jennifer Lee, Commissioner Paul Hedges, Commissioner John Malbin, Commissioner Tommy Meehan, Commissioner John Psalm III. Frederick Stand has been introduced as the sitting chair of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel Commission. Commissioner Christopher Stewart, and as well Commissioner Jack White. Thank you for your service, each of you. Join me in applauding. We also are very fortunate to have, if the alumni commissioners, as I call your name, would please stand in alphabetical order. Commissioner Stuart Buckle III, who served as chair of the CBBT Commission. Commissioner Odell Collins. Commissioner Greg Duncan. Commissioner Donald Goldberg. Commissioner Lucius Kellum, who also served as chairman. Commissioner Aubrey Lane, who also served as chairman. Commissioner Elizabeth Mapp. Commissioner Lee Payne, who also served as chairman. Commissioner Worthy Pigram Jr., who also served as chairman. And Commissioner Mark Bundy. Thank you for your service. Commissioners can donate on average anywhere from 10 hours to 50 hours a month in public service, and it is dedication with the amount of meetings that we have, so we commend them on their exemplary public service, Governor. On behalf of the Commission, thank you for your participation today. We know that today's setting is, for many, not ideal. We can hear the echoes of the Big D that went down during the Ash Wednesday storm in 1962, and thinking that this weather is perfectly appropriate, given the weather that we have here many times can be very, very tumultuous. So, as it always can be at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay, which is basically the Atlantic Ocean. It's an honor to have David Mitchell with us. David has sung the national anthem. We are fortunate that he actually had the service that he had with the ferry system as well as with the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel District. Interestingly, David, before he came to the ferry system, played for the Newport News Royals, a semi-pro baseball team, played in National League ballparks. And thankfully for the ferry system in the district, David came back here, and after his service with the ferry, which he's going to tell you about today, served with the bridge tunnel. He became a patrolman in 1980, and he was promoted to police officer. Proudly, he was the district's first African-American police officer, and he held that position until 1987. So in 1988, David was named Citizen of the Year for the town of Cape Charles. Join me, it's an honor to have David with us.
Good afternoon. Excuse me. I have a number of sheets of paper here that I'm supposed to read from, but I'm afraid if I get to that, and if I can go through all of it, it'll take me much more than my 5 minutes. So I'm going to give you a little something from the top of my head. I came to Virginia from Baltimore, Maryland, when I was 5 years old. I lived with an aunt and uncle, and they were mother and father to me. And I just loved the town of Cape Charles. I loved the people there. And my aunt and uncle were just very good parents. And I just have nothing but good things to say about them. My first job I ever had was with the dairy farm, Paul Gladstone's dairy. I delivered milk on the ferries. I had to take it upstairs to the kitchen, and on the Pocahontas, they had a dance floor in the middle of the floor. I think it was Pocahontas. And I had to zigzag through those people to get to the kitchen to put the milk in there, and it would take a lot of time. And there were times I only had a few minutes to do it. And I got caught up there when the whistle blew. It was time for it to leave, and I was coming through the dance hall. And the ferry pulled off before I went downstairs to get off on the back of the ferry. And I was running so fast, if it hadn't been for a crewman to grab me and stop me, I would have run overboard about 10 or 15 feet away from the dock. And that was one of the scariest moments I ever had in my life. But anyway, I thank God that he was there and he stopped me. And of course, I'm going to give just a little short thing. They tried to give me a hard time, so I'd have to pay for the trip. I had to go to Little Creek and come back. So I had to scrub the floor, wash the dishes, clean the restaurant, do anything that needed to be done. I had to do it. That's what they told me. And I was a little bit shook up about it, but I wound up sitting in a chair, taking the ride over and back, and everything was fine. I worked for the Gladstone until 1948. He went out of business. I got a chance to play semi-pro baseball, the Norfolk Newport News Royals. My twin brother was playing in 48, and in 49, he asked me, told me, you don't have a job, why don't you come over here and play ball? I was a pitcher. And I went over and I made the team, and we played from Jacksonville, Florida to Hartford, Connecticut in the National League parks. I had played in some of the National League parks. And I just thank God that he gave me the health, strength, and ability to do it. After that was over, I only played one summer. In 50, when the Ferries moved, were running, I got a job working there, just cleaning the building and issuing linen to the ferries. After a while, I was working on the counters at the ferries, and wind up, I was doing short order cook. They didn't ask me if I could cook, they just said cook. So I did it. And I got through with it, and I just really thank God that he blessed me to do that also. When the ferries moved down to the Chesapeake, I went down there as a janitor, and back and forth from maintenance to the administration building. I worked and walked back and forth doing my job every day. And the chief of police sent for me and said he wanted to see me in his office. I went there, and he asked me, David, what kind of trouble you been in lately? I said, none that I know of. He said, are you sure? I said, yes. And he pointed his finger in my face. You had better sit down. I got a little nervous, but I didn't have any idea what he was talking about. He went to his desk, was going through his papers and everything, like he was looking for something. They came back and said, David, we've been watching you for 2 years. And he paused. And we see something good in you that we like. I was relieved when he said that. So I want to make you a police officer. I want to make you an officer in the security at the bridge tunnel. And you think you could handle it? I said, I don't know. Would you like to try? I said, yes, I would. He said, okay, keep it under your hat, and I'll let you know something later. Less than a week. He called me to come back to his office, say they made up their mind they were going to give me a job in security. And I was going to Newport News to get measured up for a uniform, and that's what I did. So from 1966, I was in security. I was walking the tunnel most of the time. Then I was put into the plaza assistant. I even took some toll. And out of all the money I handled for the bridge and for the ferries and the bridge, mainly the bridge, I came up 50 cents short. I gave somebody 50 cents too much. And the reason I know, because if you were over or under, they would always let you know. They didn't tell me to pay it back. But I said I wouldn't think I'd be stealing 50 cents, you know. And anyway, that was a little something that happened, and I'm just grateful that things worked as well as it did. And in 1940, I was, wait a minute, I'm a little mixed up here, 1940, that's when I was working at the Gladstones, and when that went out of business in 49, that's when I went away and played baseball. In 1950, I got a job playing with the Ferry Company, working for the Ferry Company at Chesapeake. And I worked on the counters, and then I worked at a little short grill there behind the counter, cooking breakfast for the people. And one morning, the busload came in, had quite a few people on there. And we had a little grill just about the size of this. And everybody wanted breakfast. And so the lady said, well, it was just two of us, one lady and myself were there. Says, if you cook the breakfast, I'll take the orders and serve them. I said, well, there's no way I can do that with this little grill. They asked for bacon and eggs over light. I said, I'd be tearing them up with that grease and the bacon sticking and all that. I said, I can't do it. So I said, well, if you can't do your job, you're going to have, no, she told me, well, you know, I have to report you to Mr. Forrest. He was in charge. So I said, well, okay. It was time for me to go home anyway at 7 o'clock in the morning. Mr. Forrest came, and she told him, so he got after me about it. He said, well, David, if you can't do the work, then you have to go home. I said, well, I'll go home. It was time to go anyway. I hadn't been home a half an hour before he called me, because I told him I heard a man was working Little Creek doing the same job that I was doing. But he was getting paid for that, and that was his job, cooking. So he said, you can come on back. You don't have to do any more cooking. So I worked on the counter, but they did put me in the kitchen to do short order cook, which was the breakfast. And I did that for a while, and I'd set up everything for the chief cook to come in.